Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for tuning in to yet another video. I'm your host, That Dragon Guy, and today I wanted to talk about something that happened to me when I was a kid. I would have been 11 or, no, 10 or 11, something like that, 10 or 11, because my grandfather died right before I turned 10, and then I spent 5th grade, living out of state with my dad. But that's irrelevant to the story. But the age, like I said, 10 or 11. After I lived with my dad, I come back, to my original home, and lived with my uncle and whatnot. And me and my uncle used to go to this landfill or dump or whatever you want to call it. And the reason why we had to go to the landfill is because we didn't have a trash pickup. We had to take our own trash to the landfill, so we did like once a week. And every now and then when you're at a landfill like that, you can see some stuff sitting on the outside of the dumpster that isn't broken. Maybe it's just an old toy, like a dollhouse or something, an old painting or some shit like that, And I mentioned the painting for a reason. One day, when my uncle and I went down to the landfill, we saw a pretty cool painting. The way the painting looked, I'll explain in a minute. I just gotta get it up here. Hold on. Let's get this painting up. Alright, so this is not the painting. The painting that you see somewhere on the screen somewhere or another. This is not the painting, okay? This is just what it kind of looked like. Let me explain. So you see the battlefield here. You see all these dead soldiers. And you see the American flag in the background. The difference between this painting, or this picture, and the painting that we found was this little hill was a little bit closer, and nobody, and I mean nobody, was alive. Everybody right here was dead, laying on the ground, whatever. In the background, you can see a bunch of fires and smoke, and right here, you can see it was 3 or 4 different soldiers, the only ones that were alive whatsoever. They were raising the flag in the same way that, in the same kind of way that you see this painting here, or picture here, raising a flag. You see what they're doing there? Well, that's about how it looked. They were raising the flag, except for they were facing this way towards the, whoever was looking at the painting. And as I said, everybody was dead. Everybody. There wasn't a single live person here or in the background, and in the background you could see fires, explosions, yada yada yada. There was a bunch of stuff. All right, so to get away from that painting, now that I've explained it, let's talk about what happened that involved this painting. So it would have been about a year after my grandfather died, and we ended up picking up this painting, like I said, from the landfill, and it looked like there was nothing wrong with it. I mean, it was clean. It was in a frame. It was a nice little painting. It had a rebel flag on it, which I liked Dukes of Hazzard at the time, and I still kind of like Dukes of Hazzard, and so I liked the rebel flag that was on the car, and so we wanted the painting. We took the painting home. Don't really think you can get in trouble for taking stuff from a dump. One man's trash is another man's treasure, after all, right? Okay, so we take the painting home. We hang the painting in the basement, which was my uncle's room, because by all technicalities, it was still my grandmother's house, and she still happened to live there, and so did I. So my uncle's room was in the basement, my room was upstairs, my grandmother's room was across the hall from mine. My uncle was married at the time, blah, 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 blah. So, here's what happened. That night, we went to sleep. Nothing happened on the first night. Nothing at all. It's kind of boring, actually. Second night, Now, I'm specifying night for a reason, okay? So we all went to bed about the same time. Because, you go to bed, you don't want to make any noise for the other people that are asleep, so go to bed when they go to sleep, right? Well, we all went to bed at about the same time, and we all had the exact same nightmare. Now, I mentioned my grandfather dying because that's exactly what the nightmare involves. I'll explain my nightmare because I can't explain their nightmare, but they said that it was exactly the same as mine when I explained it to them. Anyway, I was in a room, and outside of the room was like this hallway. Well, I stepped out into the hallway, and at the end of the hallway, like, I don't know, 3 feet or 5 feet that way, to my right, there was my grandfather. He looked perfectly fine. My grandfather was standing there. Hey, Pops. What's up, Pops? How you doing? Whatever. Well, when I looked at my grandfather and I tried to get his attention, I was like, hello? Well, my grandfather's eyes turned red. He basically turned into, you ever play Skyrim? You know what it looks like when you, like, there's a spell on there somewhere to where you use, like, a shadow of something, and, like, this, black aura just goes around your character's body or some shit? Well, the body had, like, a black aura around it, and its eyes turned red, like I told you. So it was not my grandfather. Well, the damn thing started chasing me, or, it lunged for me, and I took off running. Now, I ran to the end of the hallway, and at the end of the hallway, there was another door. I went through the door. Inside of this door was my family that I lived with, and some of the people from the funeral. Some people that I didn't live with, but they were part of the family, blah, blah, blah. When I went into this room, I slammed the door behind me, and I freaked the hell out. Nobody in the room freaked out, because nobody saw what I saw. Well, a couple seconds later, the door is kicked open. The door is kicked open, and people inside of my nightmare start dying. Not me. I'm too busy cowering in a corner. But the demon, or whatever you want to call it, starts killing people in the room. I end up waking up. I look at the time on the clock, and the time on the clock is 3 a.m. Now, I know what you're thinking. Every ghost story, it happens at 3 a.m. 3 a.m.'s the witching hour. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever. Just because it happened at 3 a.m. doesn't mean this story's not true. So, I wake up, and I go into the living room, because I'll be damned if I'm going back to sleep after that damn nightmare. Nope. Didn't go back to sleep. Got up. Went into the living room. Lo and behold, everybody else that lived in the house was there. Me, my uncle, his wife, my grandma. All of us. We were all in the living room. We were all kind of freaked out because we all ended up in the living room at the exact same time. 3 a.m. Why were we in the living room? Because we all got woken up by the same nightmare. We each told each other our nightmare. It was pretty much exactly the same with a few varied differences, but it was pretty much exactly the same. Didn't think much of it. Whatever, everyone has a nightmare. There's nothing serious about a damn nightmare. Ugh, it's just a dream, it's not real. Alright, so anyway. Next night, we go to sleep, same thing happens. We all wake up, same time, we all meet in the living room, and we all talk about the nightmare that woke us up. Still didn't think nothing about it. Third day, I was talking to my uncle, standing perfectly still, talking to him at the bottom of the steps, because his bed was like, if you go down the steps, and you step off the steps, the bed was like 2 feet that way, like 2 feet that way, to the side, to the right of the steps. So he's sitting on the corner of his bed, and I'm talking to him. I'm about halfway down the steps. I didn't go all the way down the steps, and I am holding on to the rails, not moving. holding on to the rails. Okay? So, while I'm standing there holding on to the rails talking to my uncle, something extremely weird happens. Although some would say it was extremely terrifying, but I call it weird, and there's a reason I call it weird, which you will hear at the end of this video. But, my feet suddenly fly above my head. They don't stay above my head. No, it was like my feet got jerked away from underneath me, and as soon as my feet got jerked underneath me, they got pulled up, and my back, my head, everything slammed onto the stairs. So there I am, being drugged down the steps. Now I say drugged down the stairs because, as I already mentioned, there is a handrail. I was holding on to the handrail. And no matter how hard I tried as I fell down these steps, which I didn't really fall. You know how like when you fall down steps, you might do a roll or some shit, like you see it in the movie, they kind of roll down the stairs. It wasn't like that. The entire way down the stairs, I was going like, imagine this is my feet. My feet were just straight down. Didn't roll, didn't tumble, didn't bounce. No, just straight down the damn steps. Well, the entire way down the steps, I'm sitting there grabbing the fucking rail, trying to catch myself, okay? And no matter how hard I try, I can't keep a hold of the rail. No matter how hard I grip it, no matter how hard I grab it, I can't keep a hold of this rail. As I go down the bottom of the steps, my uncle notices and my uncle jumps off the bed. Now, if my uncle hadn't jumped off the bed, he wouldn't have been able to catch me. And the reason why it's a good thing that he caught me is because, as you know, the basement, I assume a lot of basements, the floor is nothing but concrete. If I had hit my head and busted my head or broke a bone on that concrete, it would have been very unfortunate for my 10 or 11-year-old self. But he caught me. Even though he caught me, I was fucking terrified. Horribly terrified. I got up and walked over to his couch that he kept in the basement and sat there and cried. I was crying because my back was killing me. I hit the stairs really, really hard. Okay? Still to this day, I don't understand why I was not able to stop myself from falling, but let's continue the story. Soon after that, it was dark, we all went to bed, and the same thing happened. We went to sleep, and we all had the nightmare. We woke up 3 a.m. from the same nightmare, only this time, it was a little bit different for me. My bedroom, because of the basement, and the fact that our yard went downhill, you know, as like the front of the house was sitting level on the ground, you couldn't see the basement, but as the yard goes downhill, you can start to see the basement, and the one and only floor ends up becoming as high off the ground as the second story of a house. So it's about 10 to 15 feet off the ground, and that's my room. 10 to 15 feet off the ground. I have a window, but there's no hopes of me sneaking out of that window in the middle of the night once I became a teenager. I would have fell. I would have broke some bones. It was a long drop. But I wasn't on the ground. But I look at my window on the third night, look out of my window from my bed. I'm laying down looking at my window, which is like to the right of my bed and kind of above my bed, you know, like you can't see my bed from the window if you were looking through my window. And outside of my window, I saw what looked to be Confederate soldiers and war dogs walking in front of my window. But how? I'm on the second floor. How the hell is there something walking in front of my window? Well, I flip shit, run out of the room, we all meet in the living room, we tell about the nightmare, blah, blah, blah. But I include what I just saw out of my window. Turns out, I'm not the first one to see something outside of the window. On the second night, my uncle saw the same thing. We decided to go check out the painting. Now, when we got the painting, we had already, took it out of its frame, looked at it to make sure, see if it had any signatures, to see if it was important, to see if it was, like, valuable, because you always want to try to find something valuable and make some money off of it. Well, it wasn't valuable. There was nothing written on the back. There was nothing that even signified who the artist was. Like, we didn't know who the artist was. We didn't know where the painting came from. Didn't matter. We hung it up anyway. When we go downstairs and we get the painting off the wall, and we bring it upstairs and we take it back out of its frame and we look at it. Now, all of a sudden, on the back of the painting, there's names. Lieutenant whatever, Sergeant whatever. I don't remember the names. The names aren't that important. It's just the fact that there are suddenly names on the back of this fucking painting that's really scary. We decided that the 3 days of 3 nights of nightmares and me getting dragged down the steps was all due to this painting. So what did we do? Well, we happen to live near a river. So we put the painting in a trash bag. We took the painting to the river. And we threw that painting as far into the river as we could. And we watched it as it floated down the river. We hoped that the bag would end up sinking and no one would ever have to deal with this painting again. Now, I tell you that story to tell you this. Because of that incident when I was a kid, I've always believed this. Ghosts aren't real. Ghosts are and if they are real, if ghosts are real, I personally believe they can't hurt you or scare you if you don't believe in them. If you absolutely refuse to notice their existence. If you don't notice their existence, they can't mess with you. Needless to say, ever since that incident of the painting and we got rid of the painting, I haven't had any more. Okay, maybe there was one more, but other than that, ever since I started not believing in ghosts and refusing to acknowledge anything that was out of the norm, I haven't had anything happen to me since. But what do you think of the painting? I've seen plenty of YouTube videos of supposedly haunted paintings, like the one that can't, the one where you get it and your house catches on fire and everything burns down except for where that painting's hanging. There's another one of like the crying boy or something. I don't remember what happens with that one. There's a bunch of paintings that are supposedly haunted. But like I said, I don't know what that noise was, but it made me jump. Anyway, like I said, just don't believe in them. If you don't believe in ghosts, they can't hurt you. If you refuse to acknowledge their existence, they can't affect you. But what do you think of the haunting painting story that I told you about? I haven't added anything to the story. I haven't added it for drama or effect. And hell, most likely I won't even be playing any music over top of me telling you that story. What do you think of my story? Has anything similar happened to you? Have you ever been drugged down a flight of stairs when you're standing perfectly still, not moving? Have you ever watched your own feet fly above your head, and no matter how hard you try to stop from falling, no matter what you grab, it's like something's pulling you off of it, and you don't have the strength to keep holding on? Have you ever had a nightmare that seemed so real, and when you woke up, you saw something outside of your window? I ask you these questions because if it's ever happened to you, then you understand exactly how real this story is. Anyway, if you enjoyed my ghost story, then please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I post every single day, so you surely want to be notified. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. That being said, I've been your host, That Dragon Guy, and I'll see you tomorrow, guys. Probably another gameplay, but who knows? Maybe I'll think of another story to tell you. something else that happened to me when I was a kid. Anything happened to you when you was a kid? Put it down in the comments below. Peace, guys. Bye.